At the start of 2025, I was living a double life. On the surface, I had it all figured out. Successful corporate career, stable paycheck, the kind of resume that looks impressive on LinkedIn. But underneath, I was exhausted, insecure, and wrapped so tightly in other people's expectations that I had lost sight of who I actually was. My third marriage had been separated for years. I felt like a failure, and I was trying to build a business on nights and weekends while working a full-time job that was draining every ounce of my energy. Then something shifted. Hey, I'm Jen Fast, and this is Productive AF, the podcast for humans navigating second acts, building lives that actually work, and doing it all without burning out or betraying themselves in the process. Today, we're talking about something that I think is really important, especially right now. Why reflection matters before you jump into 2026 planning. And I'm going to walk you through my own year-end reflection. The big shifts, the consistency patterns, the small wins, so you can see how this actually works in real life. Because here's the thing, most of us skip the reflection part. We're so eager to move forward, to set new goals, to become new versions of ourselves, that we forget to ask the questions that actually matter. And that's the mistake. So, stick with me. Let's talk about what it means to reflect before you plan. Okay, back to where I was at the start of 2025. My husband and I had been separated for over 5 years. And I want to be really honest about this. I didn't think we were coming back from that. I'd been married 3 times. I felt like a failure at relationships. And I was carrying all of that shame into my business, my health, my sense of self. But then something else happened. Something unexpected. We started talking again. Really talking. For the first time in years, we actually listened to each other. We had worked on ourselves individually. We learned how to communicate in ways that actually worked. And we realized something that seemed impossible. We wanted the same things. We shared the same values. We could actually make this work. That reconciliation was the catalyst for everything else. It clarified what was actually important to me. It shifted my priorities in a way that no goal-setting exercise ever could. And it gave me permission to make the biggest decision of my life. I quit my corporate career. Now, I want to be clear about this. I didn't quit because I failed. I didn't quit because I gave up. I quit because I finally understood something fundamental. I couldn't build the life I wanted while living someone else's schedule. I couldn't become the person I was meant to be while trying to be the person my employer needed me to be. So I became a full-time homemaker and entrepreneur, and everything changed. At the start of 2025, most of my identity was wrapped up in my corporate title and my role as a mother. I was insecure. I was unhealthy. I was overweight. And I carried the weight of 3 failed marriages like a scarlet letter. Today, I'm confident. I'm happy. I'm a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur building something that's entirely mine. But here's what I want you to understand. That transformation didn't happen because I made a New Year's resolution or found the perfect productivity system. It happened because I got honest about what was actually working in my life and what wasn't. And that's why I'm talking about reflection today. Most of us skip the reflection part. We're so eager to move forward, to set new goals, to become new versions of ourselves, that we forget to ask the questions that actually matter. What actually worked this year? What did I learn? Who did I become? And if you skip that step, you're building your 2026 on a foundation that might not even fit who you are anymore. Think about it. If you're a completely different person than you were a year ago, if your priorities have shifted, if your identity has evolved, if your circumstances have changed, then your goals need to change too. Your systems need to change. Your approach to productivity needs to change. But you won't know that unless you pause and actually reflect. This is what we talk about in this week's blog post, Consistency Without Shame, Review 2025 Like a Kind Boss. And I want to give you a little preview of what that looks like. In 2025, I noticed something really powerful. My health is directly connected to my consistency. When I followed the healthy habits my medical team recommended, consistently, my health markers improved. Everything got easier. My energy increased. My mood stabilized. My ability to execute on my other goals became effortless. But the moment I got complacent, the moment I stopped being consistent, I backslid fast. That taught me something crucial. My health has to be my number one priority now. Not my business, not my goals, not my productivity, my health. Because when I take consistently good care of myself, executing on everything else becomes so much easier. Now, this is where the kind boss framework comes in. Your inner critic would say something like, "You didn't stick with it perfectly. You fell off. You failed." But a kind boss says, "You noticed a pattern. You saw what works. You're getting back on track." That's wisdom. And that's the difference between reviewing your year with shame and reviewing it with compassion. It's not about being perfect. It's not about doing everything every day. It's about noticing the patterns, where you showed up, where you fell off, and what that reveals about your actual priorities. And then making small adjustments, not total overhaul. I almost overlooked this one, but I'm so proud of it. I fully embraced AI as an amplification and productivity tool. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but for someone who's over 50 and worried about being too old to learn things, it was huge. It proved to me that I'm not stuck. I'm not limited by my age or my background. I can learn. I can grow. I can do more than I previously thought possible. That's the kind of small win that compounds into big changes. Not the Instagram-worthy achievements, the quiet ones. The ones that build your confidence and prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you believed. And this is so important as we head into 2026. You need to celebrate these wins. Not because you're being vain or self-congratulatory, but because celebrating builds momentum. It builds confidence. It makes you more likely to repeat the behavior when there's a positive consequence for showing up, a celebration, a recognition, a moment of pride. You're more likely to keep showing up. That's what makes consistency easier, not willpower, not discipline. A track record of success that builds your confidence. So here's what we're exploring in the Productive AF community this week. This week, we're diving into clarity, real clarity. Not the fluffy, find your passion kind, but the practical, honest kind. What actually worked for you in 2025? What can you build on? And then we're celebrating real AF wins, and we want to hear yours. We're inviting our community to share one win from 2025 that they almost overlooked, because progress over perfection means celebrating the small stuff. Before you dive into 2026 planning, I want you to sit with these questions. Who were you at the start of 2025? What were you believing about yourself? What was your identity wrapped up in? Who are you now? What's different? How have you changed? What's one thing you're releasing that no longer serves you? For me, it was the need to please everyone else and follow other people's schedules. What is it for you? Take some time with these questions. Write them down. Journal about them. Share them in the comments on the blog. Because your reflection matters. Your story matters. And your wins, even the small ones, matter. So, here's what I want you to do. First, drop your reflection in the comments on the blog post this week, or reply to the email newsletter. Share your story. Tell us who you were, who you are now, and what you're releasing. Let's celebrate what you've become this year, because you deserve to see how far you've come. Second, if you haven't grabbed the free Miracle Month Planner yet, now's the time. It's designed to help you turn this reflection into action with clarity and ease. Third, subscribe to the Productive AF newsletter on Substack or LinkedIn so you don't miss next week's post on clarity and the celebration of real AF wins. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, please leave a review. 5-star reviews go a long way towards helping others find us. Tell me what resonated. Tell me what you're reflecting on. Tell me what you're becoming in 2026. Your feedback helps me create content that actually serves you. Here's what I know after this year's reflection. You're more capable than you believe. You're more resilient than you think. And you're exactly where you need to be. So before you jump into 2026 planning, pause. Reflect. Celebrate who you've become. And then, and only then, build your next chapter on a foundation that actually fits. I'll see you next week when we talk about clarity. Until then, keep showing up for yourself, keep celebrating the small wins, and keep trusting that you always land on your feet. This is Jen Fast reminding you, progress over perfection, always.